What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Joe Biden's worst nightmare comes true at the border, and severe hardship to American families is inching closer and closer as Congress fails to find a debt ceiling solution. Janet Yellen's warning about this. Janet Yellen, guys, big update on this. Rudy Giuliani, he said that he and Trump were selling pardons for $2 million apiece. President Biden's setting up the greatest wealth transfer in history. 4 Social Security changes that Joe Biden wants to make, and the one insurmountable problem that he's going to encounter. Now, have you guys noticed what's happening with the egg prices in Walmart, Target, Costco, Kroger, and even Aldi? Oh yeah, we're going to get into that later in this video. And if you invested $4,000 in Berkshire Hathaway, this is Warren Buffett's company. If you guys invested $4,000 in Berkshire Hathaway's company in 2021, do you know how much money you would have today? Just drop me some guesses, drop me some comments down below. Stick around because we will definitely discuss exactly how much money you could have made investing $4,000 into Berkshire Hathaway in 2021. And question for you guys, how'd you find this video? Do you have notifications turned on? Did you search Ron Yates' latest video? Did you happen to search, for the Social Security debt ceiling update? Just let me know how you found this video. How'd you find the channel? If you're brand new here, please consider subscribing to the channel and also drop a like for the video. I totally appreciate that. Really helps out the channel. So let's go ahead and get into the updates. I don't want to waste you guys' time at all. So severe hardship to American families is inching closer and closer as Congress fails to find a debt ceiling solution. This warning is coming from Janet Yellen. Now, Janet Yellen reminded Kevin McCarthy on Tuesday that the U.S. could very well face a default on its debt in early June. Guys, it's like less than 14 days away. This is getting serious. And if the debt ceiling is not reached, or if the debt ceiling is not raised by then Americans could experience severe hardships. This is coming directly from Janet Yellen herself. Biden is already scheduled to meet with Kevin McCarthy again later today on Tuesday to discuss a potential agreement. So Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is warning that the country is literally teetering on the brink of economic catastrophe. We don't even want to begin to see some of the things that I've warned you guys about over the last couple of days in terms of what could possibly happen if this debt ceiling is not raised and if it is breached. In a new letter to House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, Janet Yellen reiterated that the company might run out of money to pay its debts as soon as June 1st if Congress doesn't step in. So, huge problem on the horizon here. Quote, if Congress fails to increase the debt limit, it would cause severe hardships to American families. It would harm our global leadership position and raise questions about our ability to defend our national security interests, end quote. We've already talked about how many of the BRICS nations are collectively coordinating to knock the US dollar out of position from being the global reserve currency. We don't need this, folks. By the way, this is so annoying. I had surgery the other day, about 4 weeks ago now, and I still have to wear this strip for the next 8 weeks. And sometimes it comes off and it's just kind of annoying. But anyway, thank you guys so much for always checking on me and for wishing me well wishes on the healing process. Joe Biden's worst nightmare comes true at the border. Now, it's been confirmed that an Afghan national on the U.S. terror watch list was apprehended while illegally crossing the U.S.-Mexico border in California on Wednesday, one day before Title 42 expired on May 11th at 11:59 p.m. Now, the arrest actually was confirmed by several sources in the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, who did not reveal the identity of the individual on the Federal Bureau of Investigation's terror watch list. But according to the same sources, the Afghan national was arrested while crossing with a group of migrants near Otay Mesa in California. The Afghan national was taken to processing station where a fingerprint scan found a match with an individual on the terrorist screening database. See, this is one of the big concerns that a lot of people aren't even talking about in terms of this whole border crisis, right? So, obviously there's a humanitarian level of concern, people seeking asylum, protection. They're trying to escape a bad situation. They're trying to protect their lives, the lives of their family members. But at the same time, other people are seeing this opportunities. Other terrorists from other countries are seeing this as an opportunity, because if you can just kind of easily cross over, think about it for a second. Let's just say you want to get into this country from, I don't know, let's just say, some random country that's not necessarily a bordering country to the United States. So let's just say somewhere in the Middle East, hypothetically, right? And, if you flew in, you would be stopped immediately, between TSA and, U.S. Customs, they would stop you immediately. But let's just say you flew into Mexico. It's probably a lot easier to get into Mexico than it would be to get into the United States. So let's just say they thought ahead and they flew into Mexico and then just try to cross the border like many other people. And maybe it's just a lot easier to get in that way. And this is a huge concern. I'm not going to spend that much time talking about that one in this video, but you guys get the picture here. Now, Rudy Giuliani said that he and former President Donald Trump were selling pardons for $2 million apiece. Unbelievable. So a former aide to former Trump's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, says that he told the ex-New York mayor and then President Donald Trump were offering to sell presidential pardons for $2 million apiece, according to some court documents. Now, the bombshell allegation was levied in a complaint filed against Mr. Rudy Giuliani by Noel Dunphy, a New York-based public relations professional who is suing him for unlawful abuses of power, wide-ranging sexual assault and harassment, wage theft, and other misconduct. Hey, their words, not mine. This is unbelievable. Committed while she worked for him in 2019 and 2020 is what these allegations are showing. The lawsuit also claims that she was subjected to sexual assault, harassment, wage theft, yada, yada, yada. Miss Dunphy's lawsuit details an interaction that she alleged Miss Dunphy's lawsuit details an interaction she allegedly had with Mr. Giuliani on or about the 16th of January 2019, when he was serving as Mr. Trump's personal attorney and attempting to dig up overseas dirt on then former President Joe Biden. Wow. Or I should say former Vice President Joe Biden, who at the time was just 2 months away from entering the 2020 presidential race against Trump. Wild stuff, guys. Wild stuff. I really can't make this up. Now, President Biden is setting up the greatest wealth transfer in history. Have you guys heard about this? So during his latest My Take on Monday, Varney and Company host Stuart Varney, he warned that President Biden's proposed wealth tax, this is President Biden's proposed wealth tax, is a setup, arguing that the socialist wing of the Democratic Party is laying the groundwork to seize your money by demanding successful Americans hand over a portion of their wealth to the government. I think we've given the government enough. What do you guys think? And goes on to say here that a warning of the ugliness to come. This is a setup. The greatest wealth transfer in history is here with familiar rich winners. Okay. Now, here's the thing. They don't think that it's fair that older people are rich. Baby boomers, 60 to 80 years old, have accumulated $78 trillion in collective wealth, mostly in real estate and stocks. Now, first of all, this is why I always talk about real estate and stocks. There has been a tremendous amount of wealth built by investing in real estate and investing in stocks. And this is proof. But here's the problem. What do they define? How are they defining rich? Like, who's really rich? Are you rich if you have $100,000? Are you rich if you have $500,000? I mean, like, what's your I want to ask my audience, what's your definition of rich? You know, are you rich if you have $1 million? Like, what's that number? What's that minimum number that it takes to be quote unquote rich? Because they can literally stretch this definition and start coming after a lot of people who are not necessarily rich. I mean, just imagine you're retired, 65 years old. You have, $1 million to your name, right? Are you rich? Let's just say you're retired, 65 years old. You live in New York. You have $1 million to your name and your annual expenses are about let's just say $75,000 a year. That's if you're lucky. Realistically, you're probably closer to $100,000 a year, right? So just for the sake of easy math, if you're retired and you have minimal Social Security income coming in, right? And you have $1 million to your name, you're 65 years old, your annual expenses are roughly $100,000. If you live beyond 75 years old, chances are you've run out of money. Do you guys see this problem here? If you only had $1 million, you lived in New York or some other expensive part of the country, hypothetically, California maybe, right? Miami. Now, granted, you could always move from those different parts of the country to a less expensive part of the country. But I'm just saying, what is this rich? What is the definition of rich, right? Because rich is really a relative term. $1 million in New York City does not go very far. You would have to hope that you died in the next 10 years so that you didn't outlive your money. Because otherwise you'd be in poverty. You'd be evicted from your apartment or foreclosed on your home, assuming that you might still have a mortgage payment on it. Hopefully you don't. But, it's a real good question to understand, like what is rich? And the lower that number is for what's considered rich, the worse off the average person is. He goes on to say, don't kid yourself. You didn't make it by hard work, drive, brains, and good judgment. So since the vast majority of baby boomers with money are white, their white children and white grandchildren will inherit the money, thus continuing racial inequality. I'm just reading the article here. It says it's a setup for a wealth tax. The socialist wing of the Democratic Party demands that you add up the value of all your stocks, your bonds, your houses, businesses, and even your artwork. Then you will have to fork over a portion of that wealth every year to the government. Doesn't matter whether your investments are up or down. Just having money is the excuse to take it all off of you. Is this what they mean by the statement of you will own nothing and you will be happy? I don't know if I'll be all that happy about that. I'll tell you what, I'm not going to take that laying down. I don't know about you guys. Now, 4 Social Security changes that President Joe Biden wants to make, and one insurmountable problem that he's going to encounter. Now, for many Social Security recipients, more than 66 million Social Security recipients, I'm pretty sure they're including SSI recipients, SSDI recipients in that figure, 49.1 million of whom are retired workers. The monthly income that they receive is vital to their financial well-being. And over the last 20 years, between 80% and 90% of the retirees National Pollster Gallup has surveyed annually has responded that Social Security benefits are needed in some capacity to cover their expenses. I mean, heck, in my previous example of $1 million getting basically spent over the next 10 years in the state of New York or maybe the state of California, you definitely need some Social Security. And even that wouldn't be enough. But this much relied upon Social Security program finds itself at a crossroads. Although it can never go bankrupt or become insolvent, this is what they're saying, its financial foundation is beginning to crumble. Tens of millions of Americans who count on their monthly payments as a necessary source of income are looking to lawmakers in Washington, D.C. to strengthen America's top retirement program. And it all starts at the top with President Joe Biden. Unbelievable, guys. Now, ever since 1985, the trustees' report has cautioned that Social Security's long-term revenue collection would be insufficient to cover the payouts, including the annual cost of living adjustments, also known as the COLAs. In other words, the projected revenue collected in the 75 years following the release of a report wouldn't be enough to cover expected benefit outlays. The magnitude of this funding shortfall has been growing over nearly 4 decades, hitting a jaw-dropping $22.4 trillion in the 2023 trustees report. What have these people been doing behind the wheel? This warning has been hitting us in the face for the last several decades, and they've done nothing to address this. And now we're at a crossroads to a point where we may be at a point of no return. This is unbelievable, folks. I hope you're as pissed off as I am. I paid a lot of money into this system. And this system may not be available by the time I'm eligible. How about you guys? Is the system going to be available by the time you're eligible? Will the system continue to pay you the amount that you're expecting to be paid? Because if this thing runs dry, they're going to start cutting these payments. And we could easily see delayed payments if this debt default or this debt ceiling is reached in the next 2 weeks, basically. Have you guys seen what's happening with the egg prices over at Walmart, Target, Costco, Aldi, Sam's Club, Kroger, Publix? Have you? Well, egg prices are crashing. Oh, yes. Now, we've been talking about egg shortages and egg prices going up and, over the last several months. But finally, there's a crossroads here. As of last week, Midwest large eggs, the benchmark for eggs sold in their shells, cost just 94 cents per dozen in the wholesale market. And that is a sharp fall from $5.46 per carton just 6 months ago. In retail, prices are well above $1 per carton, although they too have been declining. Now, inflation has been a mother for the last couple of years, to be honest with you, but especially in the last 18 months. Fed Chair Jerome Powell has been hell-bent on bringing down inflation through raising interest rates at a rather aggressive clip. The most recent interest rate raised by Fed Chair Jerome Powell was about 3 weeks ago, and the last one was a 25-point rate hike. So the question now is he done with the rate hikes? Are we just going to pause and sit here, or will he continue to go higher? Will he pivot and reverse? Well, the whole goal was to pull back the rate of inflation down to 2%. Well, I'll tell you what, if egg prices are really dropping to this extent, I would say that we're finally starting to see some progress, because the price of groceries has really been very apparent, but it's also been kind of stuck. Like, we've seen a little bit of a pullback in the housing market and real estate values. We've seen some pullbacks in the automobile used car market. We've seen Tesla reducing the price of their electric vehicles. We've heard from Ford reducing the price of some of their vehicles. So we're seeing some pullback in the market. We're also seeing pullback in the commercial real estate space, especially in commercial real estate. But the price of groceries has really been a delayed metric that, in spite of all of the Fed Chair Jerome Powell interest rate hikes and whatnot, that was one of the key metrics that households, especially households living paycheck to paycheck, and that was the metric that a lot of people were waiting to see drop. Now, granted, this is just eggs, but I think that this could possibly be just a start. And living paycheck to paycheck isn't isolated to just low income people. You can be living paycheck to paycheck, being middle class, upper middle class. In a previous video, you guys should definitely check out one of my previous videos where we talked about this at length. People making well over $100,000 a year, this is how much money most people would love to have earned. But there's so many people nowadays making $100,000 a year, $150,000 a year, $200,000 a year, living paycheck to paycheck. Unbelievable. Now, what do you guys think is the cause of that? Now, obviously, we've been seeing a tremendous decline based on these numbers. And hopefully you guys are seeing the discounts in the stores already, right? But the question is, why are we seeing this decline in egg prices, right? Well, egg prices went up drastically, not only because of inflation, but because of the avian flu. And there were millions of hens that had to be euthanized and basically just taken out to prevent the spread of this particular virus. And so, now, since this is basically behind us, the disruptions have given producers one of the largest excess egg inventory counts in at least 2 years. And so essentially you got producers like Cal-Maine Foods, ticker symbol CALM. They're on the stock market if you guys are interested. The largest U.S. egg distributor. But now that the supplies are on track, though the industry braced for more cases of bird flu this year, the deadly virus seems to be under control. Now, hopefully this virus is under control and these prices will continue to decline and hopefully stay there for a long period of time. So yeah, that's the story on the whole egg situation. Now, I asked you guys earlier in this video, if you invested $4,000 into Berkshire Hathaway back in 2021, how much money do you think you would have today? Keep in mind, Berkshire Hathaway, this is Warren Buffett's company. Warren Buffett being, one of the wealthiest men on the planet. Also one of the best investors by far. So, question. How much money do you think that $4,000 would turn into by 2023 if you invested in Berkshire Hathaway back in 2021? Now, everybody knows, that Warren Buffett, his company, Berkshire Hathaway, ticker symbol BRK.A or BRK.B, has been a superb investment ever since Warren Buffett took over the company in 1965. Now, the stock has soundly beaten the broader market by a wide margin over this time frame. This is like the one stock you could have bought that would have beaten the S&P 500 hands down, and would likely have made millions of millionaires over that time. In fact, I know it's already made millions of millionaires, but so it would have been a good idea to look at how Berkshire Hathaway has performed over different periods of time. And so this is why we're interested in examining Berkshire Hathaway's performance over the last few years, because 2021, this was a time when the market exploded higher, only to be followed by, in 2022, by a very difficult market. Now, if you invested $4,000 at the very beginning of 2021, let's talk about how much you would have today. So basically, Warren Buffett, he's older, sitting at 92 years old right now, but he still got it. Many people have questioned whether or not the Oracle of Omaha still has his magic touch. Evidently, he does. And after all, as managers and CEOs get older, they tend to be a little bit more reluctant to adapt to modern day trends and whatnot, especially when they have so much success doing it their own way, the way that they've done it for decades up to this point. Evidently, experience is often overlooked, and Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway demonstrated just how much experience they had in 2021. Now, the market got very little frothy, right? A little confident because consumers had tons of excess savings from the Federal Reserve pumping liquidity into the market at an unprecedented clip. PPP loans being forgiven, stimulus checks going out, unemployment benefit boosts, you name it. Child tax credits going out left and right, Social Security increases. Berkshire Hathaway spent roughly $27 billion to buy its own stock. In Buffett's opinion, it's traded below its intrinsic value, which is part of Buffett's core investing philosophy. And even with its discipline, Berkshire stock slightly outperformed the broader market in 2021, rising 29.6% and edging out the S&P 500's 28.7% gain. In 2022, Berkshire Hathaway's patience and resilience would pay off, and the company would show that it could perform well in a variety of environments. And as the Fed found itself behind the curve on inflation, the agency moved fast, raising interest rates intensely, much to the surprise of the market. This crushed the riskier growth in tech stocks that were trading at high valuations and left investors scrambling to where they could put their money, if there was really anywhere to hide at that point, right? Now, Berkshire, with its wide exposure to a variety of different industries, several of which could hedge inflation, became an attractive spot. Now, Berkshire Hathaway, they were also much more attractive back in 2022, purchasing close to $68 billion worth of stocks, much of which occurred early in 2022, although Berkshire Hathaway also sold $33.7 billion worth of stocks as well. Now, it's really interesting that they were buying some stocks and they were also liquidating some. And so they were setting themselves up. They saw what was coming down the pipeline. They heeded the warnings. And the company made big purchases in U.S. domestic oil companies like Occidental Petroleum, ticker symbol OXY. They also pay a very hefty dividend, by the way. Right around the time when Russia's ongoing invasion of the Ukraine began, Berkshire Hathaway only repurchased $7.9 billion of its own stock in 2022. Now, let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit, right? Since the beginning of 2021, Berkshire Hathaway stock is currently up more than 41% and it's crushed the broader market. The S&P 500 is up about 10%, including dividend reinvestment, and the NASDAQ composite is down 5%, which means that $4,000 invested in a Berkshire Hathaway stock at the beginning of 2022 is now worth $5,652 in a little under 2.5 years. Not a bad freaking rate of return, folks. Not a bad rate of return. Now, is this the best rate of return you could possibly have gotten? Well, it's certainly better than investing in Bed Bath & Beyond, ticker symbol BBBY. You guys already know what happened with them. And it's also definitely better than investing in Silicon Valley Bank. But anyway, guys, drop me some comments down below. Let me know what you guys thought about today's topics. Let me know what topic was most interesting. Matter of fact, let me know what topic we talked about today that just pissed you off. Yeah, I know this whole debt ceiling is getting out of control. Social Security payments up in the air, egg prices, doing some wild stuff. And, the expected severe hardships coming down the pipelines for Americans is a lot to take in. But I just wanted to share some of these updates with you guys because we're dealing with a very unusual situation with our economy, politically, in terms of geopolitically, the position of the U.S. dollar. I just want you guys to be as well informed as possible so that you and your families can prepare and you'll be protected. If you made it this far in this video, do me a favor, drop a like for the video. Also share this video with a friend and also consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. Really do. I'll see you guys on the next one. Be safe.